Okay, just a little bit. To curiosity, appetite, and the trouble we're about to get into, one sip at a time.
Yes. Cheers.
Listen to all those noises those people are making on TV. What kind of a day has it been for you so far today?
Well, kind of a busy one. I have so many different jobs and I try to do all of them every day. I worked on an article for Wine Traveler. I worked on my blog. I did some editing for one of my part-time jobs. I did some of the marketing work for one of my other part-time jobs. I worked on an article for the Turkish wine importer that I work for.
Oh my gosh. How do you keep track of all that? I have to ask you that right off.
I have a lot of lists.
Is that something that keeps you excited or happy, or do you feel like a little bit stressed over all that stuff?
Oh, it's very stressful.
So what does it take for you to calm down a little bit? Perhaps some wine?
Wine sure does help, yeah.
Tell everyone again where you're at in Turkey.
I live in Istanbul.
Okay.
So I've been here for 13 years now.
Wow.
Organization I was working for back in, 2013 when I moved here, needed somebody to manage what was supposed to be short-term project in Istanbul. And I was the only project manager on staff, so it was me. And I came having no intention of going back, although I did not tell them that when I came.
So I'm assuming you must be, after 13 years, in love with Turkey and all that it offers. Some of the time, most of the time?
Some of the time. It just, at the end of the day, it's another big city. And,
Right.
There are pros and cons to really anywhere you can be. And a few years ago, I definitely would have, immediately said I preferred being here because the cost of living was so much lower than in the U.S., but our inflation and the devaluation of the dollar, or of the lira, have the prices here now are completely insane. I mean, I don't know how people survive, really.
You mean based on the salaries that they earned in
Yes.
Turkey and what the costs are now?
Yes, because our inflation is something like 300 or more %.
Wow.
People are moving back in with their parents because they can't afford rent, or other family members are going out to get jobs because one person's salary goes entirely to rent, but you still have to, buy food and stuff.
Right. I didn't realize it was that bad there, but it sounds like on the opposite end that it would be a good place to travel for a U.S. citizen, or is that not true either?
No, it's absolutely, I guess, no, it's a great place to visit. Absolutely, come visit. There is so much to do and see here, and especially once you get outside of Istanbul, the pace slows down a little bit and people become a lot more friendly. But I think what travelers, regardless of where they're from, aren't quite prepared for is they're hearing that, the exchange rate here is fantastic. Yeah, it's 43 to the dollar, 50 something to the euro, but they're not being told that prices are like Chicago level. A decent burger will cost you 15 American dollars these days. A cocktail is upwards of 20.
Oh, that's crazy. That's London
is crazy.
prices.
Yeah,
Right?
it's nuts.
How does somebody who's been living there for so long, natives, how do they pull it off? If everything is going up, they can't afford to go out and eat, and they can barely afford their rent. What's going on there? What is the government explaining to you?
Well, as long as nobody's listening from the government to this podcast.
Yeah, don't worry about that.
It's, for a long time, it was a Western conspiracy, particularly against the United States. We were somehow causing all of this to happen. People have stopped kind of buying that line, particularly with the change in administration in the U.S., because you can't, especially since our current leaders are such friends, it's not an argument that can be really used anymore. I honestly, I don't know how people are surviving.
I promise you this would be a warm and fuzzy interview, so we won't spend a whole lot of time here. What do you say we toast to the beginning of
Yes.
a good time and a good day? Because you're on the Quirky Cork, which is a very interesting company. It actually sounds like a Pixar character who drinks too much. Right? I mean, it does, doesn't it?
Awesome, yes.
So
I'm going to get my graphic designer to create the character now.
Exactly. I think, we're halfway there. So why don't you tell everyone what you do over at the Quirky Cork, and then we'll have our first toast of the evening and set this off.
So the Quirky Cork, I started it just as a blog to talk about Turkish wine, because there wasn't a lot of information about it online at all, or in English for sure not. And it has evolved into, I still write about Turkish wine quite frequently, but it has expanded beyond that. So now I try to focus on underappreciated wine countries, places that people aren't really talking about, but that should be talked about, as well as providing opportunities for wine tasting, both for the people who live here, but also for tourists who are coming here. I work with a few different travel agencies and just trying to get the word out about Turkish wine, that we have it, that it's good, and that you should drink it.
What's the story then with the whole wine thing? Is it something that you're able to earn money on through all of these amazing efforts that you're doing?
No.
Whether it's, no, not really. I know. Isn't that funny?
It honestly, started as a hobby. I had a blog when I first moved here, one that talked just generally about travel and food, because this was, back in the early 2000s, kind of everybody had a blog. And because I traveled so much for work at the time, I had a fair amount to write about, even if nobody was reading my blog. And then I moved here and slowly started to get into wine. And a friend pointed out that I should start writing about the wine. And that's really how my wine journey started. Is I started these really amateur posts about, I found this wine and it tastes like this. That kind of pushed me into wine education, and I did a lot of self-education.
That sounds like something you could probably teach if the opportunity came up.
And I would absolutely love to. I have discovered that, doing all of this, I've discovered sadly that I don't really like writing, which is unfortunate. But I really love giving wine tastings and talking to people about wine and seeing people get excited about it. So yeah, I would love to do a course.
We met through a mutual friend of ours, an old employee of mine when I was doing Hawaii food tours way back when, and her name is Malia Yoshioka, and you and her became friends. Do you remember how you and she met?
I do, actually. It was through the tasting. Malia says hi. By the way, I was chatting with her this morning. I had a closed Facebook group. It has to be closed because advertising alcohol in Turkey is illegal. So having a Facebook group about wine could potentially have got me into trouble. But she joined the group, and this was during the pandemic. I had figured out how to parse wine into small bottles. Like I found a pharmacy supply store, and I ordered a bunch of these 100 milliliter bottles. And I would decant wine into these and do virtual wine tastings, and I could send these kits all over Turkey. And we met because she signed up to get one of my very first kits. And she started doing a couple of these tastings and would ask me, little questions about food and wine. And we just started chatting more and more. And she's one of my best friends now.
Oh, that's so cool. 100 milliliters, is that enough? How much does that equal in shots?
100 milliliters is actually a really decent amount. In fact, the people who would get the kits often got more wine than the people who came in person, because I eventually started doing hybrid tastings. So 100 milliliters, a bottle of wine is 750 milliliters. Okay. So it's like not a super big glass, but it's still a generous pour.
It's a few ounces.
Yeah.
Okay. Enough with all this technical speak. Well, let's get to our toast like we promised. Now, before we go any further, we said we'd both bring a bottle, and I'm a man of my word, so I just want to prove that to all of our friends out there.
Fantastic.
Okay. This is a wine from Puglia, and I usually don't drink before before noontime, but we'll make an exception today because of who you are. So, what did you bring with you today?
I brought this beautiful bottle.
Ooh, tell us.
This is, so I felt very challenged. I wanted to find a wine that I thought represented Turkey. And this, in so many ways, does for me. This is by a very small producer called Heraki. This is their Aquarella Sultania. Sultania is the grape. And there's going to be a very long story about why this represents Turkey, so maybe we should actually do the cheers.
We should start drinking already. Okay,
Yes.
So before we pour, tell me, what kind of a glass do I have here? Because this is what I was going to pour mine in.
Oh, that's beautiful. That looks a little bit like a sparkling wine glass, but
It does, right?
pour as you pour, yeah.
It's so light and easy and fun to drink from, but I wanted to ask you exactly what kind of glass this is. That's what I love so much about wine people. They speak really well. They have a lot of great information about how to get loaded and what to eat and all the things that go together well. So thank you very much for that.
You're very welcome.
So I don't know if this is on screen. Okay, just a little bit. To curiosity, appetite, and the trouble we're about to get into, one sip at a time.
Yes. Cheers.
Listen to all those noises those people are making on TV. So explain to people what's going on there.
I do it all the time. And in fact, this is one of the things Malia made me explain during a tasting once, because I do it reflexively and I never think to explain it when I'm doing it. It's tasting wine it can be such a complex process, but it's not difficult. And part of that is when you take a sip of the wine in your mouth, hold the wine there and very lightly through your mouth breathe in to kind of aerate and agitate the wine. It's kind of like the opposite of blowing bubbles in your milk, right? Like, because you're inhaling, but
which is also
choking.
fun. Let's go get some milk.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
But what that helps does is it's kind of the same concept as swirling your wine to add air to it in the glass. Is you're adding aeration to the wine in your mouth, which helps amplify the flavors and helps you taste the wine more. So yeah, and I do that without thinking. Yeah, it's such a reflex now.
It's so funny because I do the same thing, but I learned to taste at the Hotel Negresco in Nice, France, and it was about food because I'm a chef. And so the food tasting and the wine tasting is very similar. You make a lot of noise in your mouth and people just kind of look at you. It's like, what the heck's going on with him? But this is what we do. And, it drives my wife crazy. Yeah. Can't you just freaking swallow your wine like everyone else?
No, because you got to taste the whole spectrum of the flavor.
Exactly. Some people don't understand spectrum.
Sad for them. We're living the life, man. They're not living to the full. They're not living their full flavor.
So it's just really crazy, the whole wine world and so on. Were you going to tell a story before about this?
Yes, I was. Thank you. This wine, why I wanted to choose this to represent Turkey. So Turkey has more native grapes than any other country in the world. We have over 1,400 grapes registered. Only about, 90, maybe 100 of them now are used in commercial wine production, though. A few more emerge every year. But even though our general wine production is small, Turkey is also one of the world's largest grape producers. We're like the 5th largest grape producer in the world. Most of those grapes are meant for the table or raisin production. They're a big exporter of raisins. And those grapes are almost all this Sultania grape, which in America people might know as Thompson Seedless.
Okay, right. And the word sultanas comes from that, or they share that word.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And it's viewed even here as a very low-class grape, and very few wines are made with it at all. Even though it is technically a wine grape, it is a vitis vinifera grape. But this winery, Heraki, They are this beautiful wife-husband winemaking team. They make wine for a number of different wineries in Turkey as consultants, but they also have this label of their own. And they put all of their effort into working with these kind of undervalued grape varieties in Turkey. So they're all like these old bush vine, dry farmed, old vineyards that are, well, not quite as old as I am, but old. The fact that they have shed such light, like this enthusiastic young couple, which is very representative of the new winemakers in the country, are shedding light on these underappreciated grapes and creating really high-class, beautiful wines with them. It's just, this is kind of all about what the Turkish wine industry is doing right now, and it's fantastic, I think.
A couple of questions comes to mind. Like 8 years ago, 10 years ago, you could get Turkish wines here in America dirt cheap. But now you've got tariffs and now you've got super high inflation in Turkey. How does a guy get a hold of a bottle of Turkish wine that's not going to break the bank?
I mean, a lot of that, unfortunately, depends on where you live in the U.S. because, so I will say right now, for anyone who is listening in Texas, you guys have all of the luck because the single largest importer of Turkish wines is in Houston, and he ships throughout Texas. He just does not yet have the ability to ship outside of the state. There's this website called Wine Searcher, and this website is your friend. Type in Turkish wine or browse my website for a couple of wine suggestions so you have a name to look for. And it will tell you if it's in the U.S., where it is in the U.S., like which state, which shop might have it. And then from there, you can kind of reach out to them.
So, Andrea, give me some tasting notes for this wine that you have here and the approximate cost, if you could.
God, I love this wine. This is the 25, so this one's still a little bit of a baby. It's Peach Jolly Rancher in the absolute best way with a touch of citrus. There's some warmer kind of like almost orange, blood orange kind of notes to it. It's a little bit floral. It's a little bit tropical on the end as well, maybe a little melon or pineapple. It's got decent acidity, but it's generally soft in the mouth. This is not oak aged. This is matured in plastic egg-shaped containers. It's a wine that does so well with lighter foods, white fishes, your seafood, anything that you would put fruit with, be it savory or not, like fresh fruit on a salad would be great with this, or if you make a fruit sauce for your protein or something. But it's also beautiful as on its own, as like a beautiful porch wine kind of a thing. This is running at about 22 US dollars, I think 22 to 25, depending on where you buy it. By the time it gets to the US, closer to 30, maybe a little bit more. The problem we have here is alcohol taxes in Turkey are incredibly high. The logistics of shipping wine to wherever it's going to be picked up by the boat and having it stored, and then the temperature controlled shipping containers and the tariffs that you mentioned. And like, for example, I know this importer in Texas, Fine Turkish Wine, he also has to build in a certain margin because since nobody's ever heard of so many of these grapes or has only had bad experiences with Turkish wine, he has to essentially give away a lot of wine to restaurants, to shops, to trade shows and everything to just convince people to even try it.
Right, sure.
So that all makes the prices go up in the end when that gets to the U.S.
When I was chefing in various different restaurants, they would have wine tastings occasionally because people want to show up their stuff to, chefs and restaurant owners. And whenever I'd go to a wine tasting, you're supposed to taste it, swish it around in your mouth, and spit it into a bucket. Yours truly never spit it into the bucket because it's delicious stuff. And so halfway through the thing, I was loaded and I always had to call a taxi to take me home. So I was not doing it the way you're supposed to.
I definitely have been that person. Some of the tastings earlier in my wine career, now essentially I don't spit. As long as I spit almost everything except for the bubbles. There's just no reason to waste the bubbles.
agree 100%. Do you know the poison protocol when it comes to wine? There's a custom of the host taking the first sip because there was an issue with perhaps it being poison. So the custom of the host taking the first sip originated all the way back in ancient Greece.
Oh, how interesting.
Isn't that? It's a way to prove that, this ain't poison.
Right.
Yeah. So it's very difficult for locals to be able to appreciate good Turkish wines because it's just so crazy expensive. And $30 a bottle for Americans is added the price demographic for people who are buying wine on a regular basis. So that makes it very difficult. And to pile on a little bit, the consumption of wine and spirits overall throughout the world is way down right now. So is that like a triple whammy going on?
It is a little bit. I think I've found, especially with American drinkers, that they are very interested in new flavors. They'll pay a little bit more of a premium to try some of these things, especially because, so many of our wines here come with these fantastic stories attached to them.
Oh, I bet.
And
yeah.
between the stories and the incredible history of wine that exists here, by drinking Turkish wine, maybe a little hyperbolically, romantically, you become part of this wine story for a country that has been producing it since before history was written. And
right.
Yeah, you pull that cork and you're part of that story, though.
Being a lover of words, as I mentioned at the top, one of the wines you just mentioned a moment ago sounded like a great new curse word I could use. Do you know which one I'm referring to?
Was it Kudasukas?
Yeah, I think so. Let's get creative here.
Oh, Kudasukas, man. I forgot that.
So, Andrea, what's a Turkish food that Americans don't know but absolutely should?
Oh, okay. This is going to be a little bit of a weird one. It is my favorite dessert here. It's a dish called tavuk göğüsü, which means chicken breast, because that is traditionally what it's made out of. It's a pudding. So it's a chicken breast that gets boiled with milk and honey, and then there's a little cinnamon sprinkled on top of it. So it's a little bit kind of like, speaking in these sweet terms about dry wine, it's a little bit of a mind bend because you're eating dessert, but it's chicken breast.
Is it really sugary because you're calling it a dessert?
It is a dessert. It's quite sweet. It's intensely sweet, but not in in a sugary way, because of it's cooked for a very long time with milk and honey, and probably now that sugar is available, I'm sure there's actual sugar in there as well. And then you put a little cinnamon on the top of it as you're serving it. It's got a very thick texture. It's quite sticky in the mouth. But it was invented, I can't remember at what point in history, but it was used because it was before, essentially, they discovered thickening agents. They used chicken meat to thicken liquids and to thicken dishes. It served a practical purpose. They could have just made the pudding with milk and some sweetening things if they'd had, cornstarch, but they didn't. So they used chicken breast, and the tradition of making this dessert has just stuck, even though now they do, of course, have cornstarch.
Sounds a little bit like the Moroccan dish Bastia, which has powdered sugar and chicken and almonds and stuff like that. So I can kind of get it as a sweet dish. I think it could be really delish. Even though a lot of people, if you say, would you like some chicken pudding? They might freak a little bit.
Yeah, I never tell people what's in it before they eat it. But it also goes very well with a number of the dessert wines that are made here.
Besides the wonderful chicken pudding you described earlier, what's another food in Turkey that you crave constantly?
Oh, that I crave constantly? I'm sure Turkish kebab. I'm sure everybody's heard of Turkish kebab. There are so many kinds of kebab. So many kinds. I'm still finding new kinds of kebab that I've never heard of, because it can be so incredibly, not just regional, but on a village level, local. And there is one that comes from the Eastern Mediterranean region, like around Hatay and Antalya, that is really hard to find in the city. The kebab meat gets mixed with crushed pistachios, and then it's all cooked together with sour cherries and with the juice from the cherry, and then served on these lavash bread, so it all soaks up all the juice, and oh my gosh, it's so good.
That sounds
So
great.
good.
What is that called again?
In Turkish, it's called vijneli kebab, which means sour cherry kebab.
That sounds like a Lithuanian word. The words are so interesting over there.
I hear vijna in a lot of different languages, so that
Yeah.
that definitely is a regional share that came from I don't know where. I don't know whose word
So
that was originally.
Are you much of a cook, or are you going out to restaurants most of the time?
Well, I do cook because, again, I can't really afford to go out anymore.
Who can freaking afford that? Right. So what kind of things might you cook?
I cook a lot of Asian food, particularly Thai and Indonesian, because it's weirdly easy for us to source things like lemongrass and makrut limes, bizarrely. And I have to cook my own Chinese because the Chinese food here sucks so much.
Is that right?
Oh, it's so bad. It's like, at best, it's American Mall food court
Wow.
level. It's not good. The same with Mexican food here. So when I go to the U.S. like once a year, and at least one suitcase upon return is full of like Mexican spices and dried peppers.
I would think that you would get a ton of peppers over in Istanbul.
We don't. I know because there's this, everybody knows about the Spice Bazaar and everything that's in
Right.
here. And yeah, you go to the Spice Bazaar and there are all these shops with beautiful piles of powdered spices, but almost every shop carries the same selection. And even within that selection, very few of those are like single spices. A lot of them are spice mixes. There are a couple of different kinds of pepper that you can get here, but they're not particularly spicy. Turkish spicy is not spicy. One of my favorite mezes is, depending on where, I think it has a few different names, but my favorite name for it is atom, A-T-O-M, so like atom bomb. And essentially it's just really thick strained yogurt that they cover with chili oil. And that is very spicy.
Yeah,
I love
right.
that. But otherwise, I find the spice level here to be medium at best. I mean, as spiced things are done very well, but spicy things are not that common here.
Right. Bring on the heat is what Andrea is saying.
Yes, please, somebody.
You're welcome. I want you to tell me a little bit about your book, because I'm really curious about what you're covering in that and how long it's been on the market and what kind of people enjoy reading it.
So the Essential Guide to Turkish Wine, it covers as much about Turkish wine as I could shove in a book without making it an encyclopedia.
Oh,
So
wow.
I wanted to give as much breadth of like everything about Turkish wine and get people curious about it, which is it's why I wrote it. I wrote it for the international community as opposed to people here, because I wanted to excite people about Turkish wine and encourage them to eventually come and try it, since that's really what you have to do. So it talks a little bit in very brief about Turkish wine history, which, as quickly as you can cover 8,000 years, as it does. A little bit about Turkish wine culture today, Turkish wine styles. A lot of the grapes I talk about with my fantastic graphic designer, Başak Gürkilic, who made really beautiful infographics for me for all of the grapes. So there's like a page dedicated to each one of the grapes that's used. The majority of the book talks about each of the individual wineries. I don't give things like tasting notes or talk about specific individual wines because, tasting notes can be very subjective, and a winery might make a specific wine for only 1 year and then never again. So, now I've got it in print that they have this wine and everybody's disappointed when they don't. But for me, it was really important to tell the story of the people behind it. In very few places do you get into wine because you want to make money. Right. It's a very expensive industry to be in at all levels of being in wine. But particularly here, this is not an industry you get into because you think you're going to make $1 million. With everything that they struggle and they go through to start a winery, to maintain it, to make it, to sell the wine, with the taxes and all of the restrictions that the government puts on them, people here make wine because it's who they are, because they are trying to maintain that connection with their history and with their culture, and they're trying to make sure that these rare grapes that exist nowhere outside of the country don't die off forgotten. And I wanted to be able to tell their stories as best as I could. It's available in a number of places online through Amazon. Barnes & Nobles has it. You can also order it directly through the printer because I do a print on demand.
Oh, good.
So
okay.
You can order it directly through Ingram Spark, which is great for me because, well, I get a bigger cut.
That's interesting. So you can't promote it, you can't advertise it, but yet you can sell your book in Turkey. Is that right?
It's a little crazy. Yeah, I can't do technically I can put pictures of the book on Instagram, but I can't do an Instagram ad for my book because the word wine is in the title, and so it gets flagged as being like geographically banned or something like that.
Right. So I want you to give everyone your website address so they want to check you out and see what you're all about. How would they do that?
I am at quirkycork.com. So it's just the quirkycork.com. Or you can find me on Instagram where I'm Quirky Cork. The same with the YouTube, etc.
What's your quirkiest wine habit?
Oh, my quirkiest wine habits? Oh, that's a great question, and I don't know the answer. I get very wine insecure about how much I have on hand, and I don't know how that started. But there are, 200-300 bottles of wine in my wine room. But as soon as I take away one and there's one empty space, I'm like, oh my God, I'm running out of wine. I have to buy more. That has calmed down a little bit.
You have 250 bottles there in your house?
Give or take, I think.
Oh, wow. Give everyone your address.
And I have 2 off-site cellars as well. It's
Oh, my gosh.
It's a problem.
Yeah, I can see there's a little bit of shame there, but a little bit of excitement at the same time.
It's a bit of a problem, and choosing wine every night is difficult.
What's the weirdest wine you've ever tasted?
I feel like I have a really good answer at the tip of my tongue, and now I can't remember what it is. Oh, no, I got it. One of our producers here, so we have a grape called Bornova Mischetti. It's a Muscat, so it's a very aromatic grape, and it is more often produced dry than sweet here, but we do have some sweet examples of it. This one particular producer, I have no idea what the heck they did to it, but this wine tastes like chicken curry. It's a little floral and a little citrusy for sure, but it also tastes like turmeric and ginger, and it just tastes like chicken curry, and it's so weird. Honestly, I have no idea what happened to it in the winemaking process, and I've only had the one vintage because I'm slightly afraid to try it again.
Yeah, I think not. Not with 250 bottles in the next room. I think you'll be good. Been very patient with me. I brutalized you with my questions for the past hour. Now it's time to turn the tables. You can go ahead and ask me any question or two that you might be interested in asking a host that you've never done before.
Fantastic. And do you do writing? Because, seriously, your love of words, and okay, you do, because I want to take classes from you, because your command of words is chef's kiss. Fantastic.
Oh, wow. I'm never tired of hearing that. Go ahead.
No, seriously,
Thank you,
even
that's
just
nice.
your emails. I felt so pressured as how do I respond to this beautifully written email? No, it's beautiful. What you do is beautiful. As a chef, approach wine. Is it, I'm thinking about a dish and then this is going to be my wine, or do you go to wine first and then to food, or is it just depends kind of a thing?
That's a similar question to the question that people ask musicians. Lyrics or music? What comes first? For me, it's always food. Food is the core of my universe. The wine matching comes after that, and I always only will match food that I'm cooking. Never will I try to do it the other way around.
Okay. So if I were to ask what you would pair with the wine that you opened for our conversation?
It's early here, and I don't normally drink this early, so I would say I would just pair it with a wonderful conversation.
Oh, that's beautiful.
You know what time it is now, Andrea? It's the impromptu promo moment where you get to do an impromptu promo. Let's say in a couple of hours, Malia calls again, or one of your other buddies says, so what was it like being on 50 Tastes of Grey? What's Matthew like? What do you guys talk about? You need to sell this to whoever asks you about your experience here. Ready? Go.
One of the most honest and therefore one of the most difficult conversations that I've had on a podcast in such a good way, because I was thinking about things in a different way that I normally do. And it wasn't just, ooh, Turkish wine is great and you should drink it. It was a deeper conversation about how I got here and what are some of the technicalities involved in both in what I do, but also in kind of why I love what I do. And I hope it was something that was equally interesting for the host, because he led such a great conversation. I don't know. Sorry, that was terrible.
You want to do a take two?
You have to listen to this, because we are two fantastic food people talking about flavors and encouraging other people to explore a more flavorful world for themselves. And if you listen, then you'll know how to do it.
Oh, I like that. I was thinking that you were going to, take a sip and then go for it.
I probably should have this is the only glass that I poured myself the whole day, so maybe that was my problem.
Okay. Yep. Now we know. It's under abundance. She only has 250 bottles in her room next door.
I might run out. I mean, got to drink it slowly.
I hope you had a good time today, my friend.
I absolutely did. I cannot thank you enough for having me. I was so excited when you reached out, both based on what Malia has said about you. And I mean, of course, I watched your interview with her, but, I did my homework and watched more of your conversations. And you are such an interesting host. And I was just thrilled to be here. Thank you.
Oh, super. So I would like you to say aloha and goodbye in your native language there of Turkey, and let everyone know that we're thinking about them.
I don't know how to say that. Everybody's thinking about you, part. Shay, but
is it merhaba?
So, merhaba or selam. And selam, you can actually use like aloha. You can hello and goodbye with that one. Oh my gosh. See, my Turkish is terrible. Ha. I did a Turkish podcast once, and it was the most embarrassing thing I've ever done in my life. I wanted to say thank you for your attention. I forgot how to say that. Ama çok teşekkürler herkes. Yani bize katıldığınız çok teşekkürler. Desteğiniz çok teşekkürler. Ve umarız görüşürüz. Teşekkürler. Yes.
Andrea, that was the longest goodbye in my entire career.
You don't even know. With Turkish, it's like there are so many of these little phrases that they do, and you can't even get away from the cashier at the grocery store without having a 10-minute conversation that's just goodbye.
Yeah. Well, everyone likes to schmooze.